The Ron G Morning Show, every Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. only on WSAN Radio, the soul of America. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I got a very special guest joining us this morning. Um, she has, I read a lot about her, and she wears a lot of hats. Sort of like me, I got on a bunch of hats. What do you do? I do this. You can't do all that. Yes, you can. And she is proving you could do that. I got a very special guest, Catherine McNeil. Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm good, and I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, that's good. Now, Catherine, for folks that may not know you, tell us a little bit about your background and what led you into this amazing work in career development and workforce transformation.
Absolutely. So I'll start with the where I am now, and then I'll kind of back into it if that's okay.
That's fine.
Um, so currently, I wear three major hats. The I am the principal career and workforce development consultant for CHBM Services, which is my own LLC and consulting service where we bridge the gap between the understanding of and solving problems for professionals in the workplace. Then I also am the founder and executive director of Disruptive Inc. And that is the 501c3 that I founded that provides career and workforce development resources to single parents ages 18 through 40. And then I'm also a talent development consultant for one of the largest utilities in the country. So those are the three hats that I wear. Now, with that, we can back into how I got here.
Okay.
From a background standpoint, I am a single parent. I got pregnant at 19. I was going into my sophomore year of college. I was attending Penn State, go Penn State, and I was slotted to be a computer engineering major. That was my focus. So I was one of those kids. Came back home, air quote, love of my life, all of that romantic, non-romantic scenarios that we read about that took place, ended up getting pregnant and had to make a choice about whether or not my father would continue to pay for my education or I would go forward with having that child. So what, 25 years later, because my oldest is 25 now, 25 years later, 3 kids later, 2 businesses later, multiple degrees later, and all of these things, we are where we are. So I ended up in this space unintentionally and intentionally simultaneously. I've always been one of those folks that likes to solve problems, and I need to understand the why. And my road was very, very exciting. My journey was very exciting on how I got here. But there were two things that happened along that way. I found out and I unintentionally discovered a lot about what resources exist as well as do not. And I learned a lot about myself, which ultimately landed me in the industrial-organizational psychology field, as well as me being a Lean Six Sigma green belt, because it all just comes back together with understanding the why behind, figuring out how to work it, solving problems, and supporting in that aspect.
Hmm. I tell you, take my hat off to you because I was a single parent. I raised three, two boys and a girl, and I tell you that's not easy.
It's a good time.
Yeah. Oh, it's always something going on. You got all these personalities in the house. It's always something, and it seems like some of their issues are more important than the other one issues. I just look at them.
Y'all figure it out and
Yeah,
then take a number and we'll
come
get back
back.
together.
Tell me.
Yeah.
While we talking about that, let's talk about those single parents you served. What
Okay.
are some of the biggest challenges that they face when trying to advance their careers?
So I don't know that we have enough time for this, but it's a number of things. But commonly, and I'm just going to kind of say this, is us living in a place of survival. We're willing to take any job I'm going to preface this too, because of the fact that we're coming from a place of survival, we're willing to take any job that we consider to be a air quote good job, right? My generation was one of those generations where it was like, if you got in with the railroad, if you got in with the utilities, the bus company, transportation, or anything along those lines, you stayed in those positions because those were considered good jobs. There were pensions. You can retire after 25 years, so on and so forth, right? So depending on how you grew up and where you grew up, you weren't focused on passion, you weren't focused on purpose, you were focused on providing for your family. So whatever job you can get into, especially if you didn't go to the military and you didn't go to college, that's what you got into, and then you stayed. And then when the children get grown and you're realizing that you may have not had the opportunity to create an identity outside of parenting, you're now finding yourself navigating a different set of rules and wanting to find a different career. So that's one side of it. Because of the fact that we have children, we run headfirst into whatever the good job is. I'm going to take it. I'm going to stay there because I need to provide for my kids. And then the other side of that is, and this is going to sting a little bit, but it's a transparent response. It's a lack of self-awareness.
Mm.
We run into the workplace, especially now in the society in which we live in, with the internet and social media, and everybody's in competition, and it looks like you can be a millionaire at 16 or you're coming out the womb wealthy. Like, it is just, it's all of this chaos and noise that exists that creates unrealistic standards, and it creates a very unhealthy set of competition. So we have people coming straight out of high school that feel like just because of the fact that they are attractive or they have this particular talent, they should be making six figures off the bat. They have no real experience. They have not navigated a work environment in any way, shape, fashion, or form, but somebody else did it. And it looks like somebody else did it, so I can do it too. So
Yeah.
then we find ourselves in a place where we are dealing with, and it's not just coming straight out of high school or college. We've seen these with more seasoned adults too. Folks have unrealistic expectations. I'm starting today. In 2 years, I should be the CEO. But no one's owning the amount of development by way of the professional development, your personal development, honing in your networking and navigating company politics, just learning how the business runs. No one counts that in. We have unrealistic expectations. So those are the two things that kind of sit top of mind when I
Yeah.
think about the experiences that I've had, especially when it comes to parents.
You know, you brought a point that they go into it expecting they want this. I talked to this young man that couldn't get a job. I asked him, well, what was it? Well, I went in once I had the interview, and this guy was bold. He said, I went in, said I can only work 30 hours a week, and this is what I expect to get paid, and,
Yeah,
and my birthday off. He came with demands. Wasn't even
absolutely.
hired yet.
Absolutely.
And he didn't get hired. He trying to
And I'm
figure
not
out,
surprised.
yeah, he trying to figure out why. I said, dude, if you got hired, I want to follow you. But let me tell you something. You got to crawl before you walk. You can't go in there expecting to get this six figure and you're not even McDonald material. Even,
Absolutely.
even McDonald's is scrutinized who they hire nowadays. So,
And you told them right. And there's something key and critical there. And that's why I emphasize that self-awareness piece, right? I
mm,
am a advocate and supporter of know your worth, show up, how you want to be respected and received, all of those things. Because I
yeah,
am confident and I'm going to be confident in all of the ways. But who I am and how I show up is a combination of things, not just how I was raised and who my family told me that I was, but the receipts that support everything that I say, from the career that I've established,
hmm,
from the degrees that I've accomplished, from the certifications that I have, right? Like, it is from the people that I've helped, the business, that I've built, and so on and so forth. It is my brand, who I am, and how I represent myself is a collection of these things. So at any given time, I'm okay with being questioned and challenged in a situation because I know I have the receipts to verify that. And
Right.
so I can walk into a job too, and then I can negotiate. That's what he thought he was doing, but he was coming off demanding because there was nothing behind him that supported that he was worth what it was that he was asking for. And that's another area of opportunity from that self-awareness standpoint. We have to understand truly who we are and what that translates into in the workspace. And that's even if you're an entrepreneur and you have a product.
Yeah.
It's consistent across the board.
Okay. Now, for my listeners out there, some may be entry level, others mid level. What's one of the simple things they can do right now to start moving forward in their professional life?
I love that question because as an individual that started making $6 an hour, I have sold men's suits. I've worked in a gas station. I did do a stint in fast food. I've been personal assistant. I've worked in a mailroom, right? I am telling folks this for a reason. Start somewhere, but start intentionally. Every last part of your career development journey should be intentional. If at the end of the day, you want to be a best-selling author, you haven't put pen to paper, and you might not even be able to read really well, never been in the workspace, the best thing for you to do is get an entry-level job at a bookstore. Start developing your customer service skills, start understanding what some of the requirements are to be an author, get in the environment, and then start to make the connections, start to have conversations with, start to network. And the next step things that you need start to come from there. And you're building as you go. And then you can get to the point of, now you're writing your first book. Maybe it's self-published, maybe it's published through a publishing company, whatever the case may be. But my point is figure out what it is that you may want to do. And even if that's not the thing that you end up doing for the rest of your life, start somewhere, but be intentional about where you start because that matters in the long run.
Mm. Somehow, I think you know my questions leading to this next one right here.
I do not. You did not share the questions with me, so I am definitely
And
doing the
so,
best that I can.
well, what you just mentioned, what I'm leading to right now. So, how important is mental wellness in achieving success on the job in life today?
Okay, so that is one that is near and dear to my heart. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story, and then I'm going to answer your question.
Okay.
So I mentioned like it's in all of my books, so I don't necessarily tell like the nuances, but in the short reads that I've published, or if you tune into my radio show or the podcast or whatever, the details are shared. But it took me about 10 years to finish undergrad, right? Because I mentioned I got pregnant. My dad gave me the ultimatum, and I chose my child. But I still chose to finish school. But that was a very scenic route. So it took me about 10 years to finish undergrad. So around the time that I was 26, 27, I was gearing up to graduate with my bachelor's in business administration. And ran out of money. Like I got the notification in January. I am in my senior year. I got the notification in January that ultimately I didn't have enough funds to finish my final semester.
Oh,
So then I ended up having to take a full load. Now I was working full time and I was going to school. What they consider to be full time could be 3 or 4 classes. So I was opting for the 3. I had to take 4 to be able to graduate on time. So I did it. However, at this time, I have 2 toddlers. I'm working full time. I'm taking a full-time load between 2 campuses because I'm trying to get this done. So I was at Robert Morris College at the time, which is now Roosevelt University. Shout out to Roosevelt. But I was traveling between 2 campuses because of the fact that I was liked, loved, valued, and respected in my position. My job allowed me to create my internship and use my actual position for my internship, and they were flexible with me on my work schedule. Okay. And I'm sharing this the way that I am and intentionally. So I'm not telling you all stuff that I haven't had to go through. I'm telling you stuff that I know works and is the reality of the workspace. I lost my mind. I was juggling so much trying to, because one, I'm almost 30, right? My life is not turning out the way that I anticipated because I had this grand vision of what it was going to look like, right? And it never encompassed having children or anything along those lines, but there are no regrets in that aspect. My kids made me the person that I am. But I say that because when it's not the plan, we get discombobulated, we get stressed, we hold ourselves to a different set of circumstances and sometimes unrealistic expectations, so on and so forth. And I crashed. Like, I literally had a break because it was just so much. It was so much happening. And it was at that time, along with some other things that had happened a few years before that, where I made a promise to myself that I just would never put myself in that type of situation ever again. So I say that to say, and in all of my messaging, I focus on accountability and relationship building, literally across the board. And a part of accountability is taking care of ourselves and being intentional and owning what roles that we play in the things and the circumstances that are happening in our lives, and making sure that our emotional, mental, physical well-being is prioritized is one of those things that we cannot leave up to anyone else. We know the signs and the triggers of when things are off. You cannot show up as your best self for your children. You cannot show up as your best self for your business, at work, choir, whatever the thing is, if you cannot show up as your best self for you. So there is no success in anything else if you have not prioritized your mental, emotional, and physical well-being.
You know, one word came to mind when you said what you went through, and something that Blacks have more of than anybody else. It's called resilience.
Yeah.
And listen to your story, because I went through some of that similar. I had two of my sons was in the hospital at the same time. I was going to school to get my teaching certification and plus working. One was in 30 miles away, another hospital, the other was the other way. And somebody asked me when I told them their story, how did you do it? I said, I had to.
Mm-hmm.
There was nobody else there for me. I had to do it. And people don't understand. That makes you a better person later on in life, which brings to this next question.
Okay.
Let's talk about community for a second.
Okay.
How important is a community of support in helping single parents and underserved individuals succeed?
I hate to say this because I know it can potentially come back to bite me, but at the same time, you can't succeed without community. And now that does not mean that you need the whole neighborhood, or 30 blocks behind you. It just means you need a village.
Thank you.
We need help. Right? Like we are not one man and one women shows. We need help from a simple
Mhm.
standpoint of parents need a break. That's just from the simplest aspect. That goes back to that prioritizing yourself thing, right? Or figuring out what those small wins can be to re-energize or recharge yourself. There's that. Then you don't know everything. You don't have all of the answers. You don't have access to all of the resources. The very first book that I wrote, A Mother's Love, 31 Days of Affirmations for Single Mothers, was because I was at a breaking point with my 17-year-old. So that was my oldest child, right? In the
Mhm.
Black community, what happens in this house stays in this house. So I had no idea that you could actually have a conversation with other parents about the experiences that I was having, and that what I was experiencing with my 17-year-old was actually normal. It wasn't anything crazy. I wasn't a bad mother. It was just the reality of raising a teen. But I didn't know that. because what happens in this house stays in this house, and we do not have those conversations because you will not judge us. So what I
Mm-hmm.
did was I created a 31-day affirmation though to help other mothers. It just
Wow.
31 days of experiences, right? And
Mm-hmm.
guess what that is? That's community. They may not know me from Adam, but they're going to look at least 15 of those days and feel like they're seen, valued, and heard, and then be inspired because somebody else was able to make it through this in spite of that. I did the same thing with the dads, but I did it from a single parenting standpoint. And it's a Dear Dad book. Now, men are different. So you all aren't going to necessarily listen to me because I'm not a man and I'm not living the experience. So what I did was I wrote a letter to single fathers from a single mother. I'm the single mother. And I created a bit of a workbook where there was prompts. I polled all of the men that I knew. I provided the opportunity for them to just kind of share what some of the common experiences were that they had. And I spoke to that. And there's a journaling component because that accountability piece is there too. She could be crazy. She could be the worst thing on the face of the earth. We're not having that conversation. We're dealing with us. And men like to solve problems. So I came from that standpoint. Don't
Okay.
focus on her, focus on you and being the best you that you could be. So I give those examples because I live in a space of community. That's why the not-for-profit was born, and that's why the majority of the resources are either free or they're so low cost that you probably think that I'm crazy. But it's because we need it,
Yeah.
right? I show up as the individual that I needed at that time. And then I was fortunate enough to have community by way of family that I created. And, and so on and so forth. All of us just need to understand that community looks different. Your core family, the family that you were born into, again, may be crazy. And you may not want anything to do with them. But when you're doing your self work and you're doing what you're supposed to do, you start to attract to you the people and the things that you need. Like people don't say that because it sounds good. It is the reality of it
Mm-hmm.
because you start to shift and you start to grow and people want to be connected to what's popping. So when
Right.
you get to the point of, you have your glow, doesn't mean that you are not experiencing problems and issues and obstacles because that's a part of life. We all do, but it's the how we go through that matters. Folks want to be connected to that. They want to help that. They want to support that.
Mm-hmm. I could,
So go for it.
yeah, I could jump in there and say that people want to be around people who are positive too.
Absolutely.
Don't be around nobody that's, oh man, why are you doing that? Somebody came up to me the other day and I did something and they said, oh, and what it was, I had some people trimming my tree. And so it was about five of them out there running around there. So I brought out some water to them. So I told a friend of mine what I did. I wouldn't have done that. I said, why? Well, when they show up, they should have everything together. I said, well, they're out there in the heat. I felt that that's what I do. So regardless if you think I'm right or wrong, I'm not going to listen to you and what I do. I felt this is what I want to do, and I gave to them. We had a
Right.
long, old, heated discussion about that for about 15 minutes. And I said, you know what? He said, well, I'm done. He said, is it resolved? On my end's resolved. It seemed like it's not resolved on your end. Peace. And I walked away.
Your character is your character. And you
Yeah.
doing that simple things, I promise you there are other aspects of your life where two things exist. You've been provided for and you've been supported because of your service there. And then you also show up in that same way in other aspects. That's just naturally who you are. And it's not a bad thing. And it's completely fine that that's, what they would not have done. But for you, that felt like the right thing. We need more of the people who feel like it's the right thing to do to
Hmm.
actually do it because kindness works. There will always be crazy people that are like, ugh, or they don't respond the right way, right? So the lesson
Yeah.
learned there is, and you don't do it for them,
Hmm.
but you continue to move forward and you operate in wisdom. We need more of that.
Yeah. Well, that time just went by fast. Before we
It
let you
did.
go, we're gonna have you back on again.
Just
It,
let me know.
that chemistry, I like what we're doing. I mean, this is perfect. But before we let you go, what is your message today to someone listening who may feel stuck unsure about their career path or facing life challenges?
Give yourself grace. Give yourself grace and continue. I say this loosely because as an adult, right, you know if you've been doing things that are crazy that you shouldn't be doing. But you also know if you've been doing the right thing and you just have not been yielding the results in which that you want.
Yeah.
So I say that to say, give yourself grace and then continue to do what you've been doing until the opportunity presents itself.
Okay, Catherine, it's been a true pleasure having you on the show today. You're making such an incredible impact, and we thank you for sharing your wisdom and your heart with us. I mean, we got to talk again. I like this. We got part 2, 3, 4, and 20 coming up. But you have my calendar link. So
Yes.
anytime you want to come back on, just let me know. Just submit it in there and make it longer than 30 minutes
Yes, sir.
because this went by real quick.
It did.
But I really truly do appreciate you taking time out on this Friday for us, and nothing but good things coming your way. I feel it. I feel it. You got blessings coming your way.
I appreciate you and thank you so much. You have a great and safe weekend.
All right, you too.
All right.
Okay, bye. Thank you for tuning in to WSAN Radio. Catch us on our YouTube channel, WSAN Radio SA. Subscribe to our channel and hit that notification button.